Sorry about that. We just had some technical difficulties. All right. This is our third live Q&A, so welcome everyone if it's your first time joining. I'm going to try to do this. I've been trying to do this weekly, and I've been posting. If anybody has any questions, you can jump on, ask questions if you didn't get to post. But I know one of our friends, Cindy, had a question for tonight, so I'm going to get started with hers. Just a little overview. We base our sleep training techniques in this group. It's for troubleshooting from the book 12 Hours by 12 Weeks. And if you haven't read the book, definitely get your copy of it. I'm not the author. I'm just a lover of the book and used it on all three of my kids. And I'm also not a doctor, so all the advice you get here, it's just suggestions, advice from experience, not to be replaced for any medical advice. Always consult with your doctor. So let me see. Hopefully our friend Cindy is on right now, but I'm going to address her question. It was about dropping that feeding in the middle of the night. Hers happened to be at 2:30. The question is, how do you know when it's time to drop that middle of the night feeding and start weaning off? So if your baby happens to sleep through it, just let them sleep through it. When you're starting the sleep training process and the baby's around 8, 9, 10 weeks, you won't need to wake them for that feeding. That's just something that the doctors suggest you do. Hey, Cindy. In the beginning to get them back up to their birth weight. So we're definitely not waking them for that feeding. But once you start doing that in the beginning, the baby gets used to waking up at that time. So you're going to want to, so they're used to it. So eventually you have to wean it off. So even I remember when the doctor gave me the go-ahead to stop waking my daughter in the middle of the night for those feedings, me and my husband were like, yes, we don't have to wake her. And sure enough, she woke up anyway because she was used to it. So what you have to do is measure the amount, if you're not nursing, so if you're using a bottle, measure the amount that he or she takes at that feeding. Don't force them. If it's like normally 3 ounces, don't force them to take that full 3 ounces if they fall back to sleep. So say they only take 2.5 ounces. The next night, give them a little bit less than 2.5 ounces. Never go backwards. So if they can make it through the night with just 2.5 ounces, don't give them 3 ounces the next night. So that's that. Never go backwards. Never backtrack, because you know that they don't need that ½ ounce extra. And slowly start decreasing the amount. You could do it by a ½ ounce if you want. They may be fussy when you put them back to bed, but eventually you can wean them off down. I remember with my second one, I think we got down to 1 ounce before she just didn't even wake up for it. It was one of those, like, it wasn't even worth it for her to wake up. It was just a soothing thing. If you're nursing, you're gonna have to time it. So nursing's a little more difficult because, like I said, it's a soothing thing. Since you're gonna be dropping the feeding anyway, you might wanna pump and put it in the bottle and just like have your body eliminate that middle of the night feeding. So maybe pump a little bit at 10 o'clock at night before you go to bed, and then you'll have it in a bottle. And it's only going to take a week or two for you to eliminate that feeding, if that makes sense, Cindy. So start by measuring how much they take. That's your first step. So say tonight she wakes up at 2:30 in the middle of the night, 2:30 in the morning, and she only takes 2.5 ounces. Tomorrow night, do not give her any more than 2.5 ounces, and actually try to decrease it tomorrow night to like a little less than 2.5 ounces, and keep going until eventually you get down to an amount that she's either not going to want to wake up for, or that you've kind of run out. Like it's down to a ½ ounce, and that's all she's getting. And if she's still waking up for that, you know, she'll probably just wake up, fuss, and then want to go back to bed if you're down to that ½ ounce. So the other question you had was getting them to sleep later. So you said you were doing 7 to 7 and 8 to 8, and no matter what, she's waking up at 5:30 in the morning. I would stick to the 7 to 7 then, if I were you, just because you might as well get the baby to bed earlier. And when she wakes up at 5:30 in the morning, is she screaming her head off, or is she playing? A lot of times, if you kind of just let them play in there, they might doze back. If she's screaming her head off and she's ready to eat, you can feed her. Try to extend it as close to you can to 7. So if she wakes up at 5:30, maybe let her fuss for 15 minutes, then take her out, change her, like kill some time, and then give her her bottle. Say she ends up getting her bottle at 6 a.m. The next day, try to let it go another 15 minutes. So maybe she'll wake up, you let her fuss the last time till 5:45 in the morning, and then you woke her and changed her at 6. So he's crying, like he's ready to get out of bed. So I would just try to stretch the time that you feed him. So don't feed him exactly at 5:30. Try to like wait 15 minutes, let him fuss a little bit, and then the next day wait, or a few days, let him go until 5:45, and then extend it to 6, and then extend it to 6:15 until you get to that 7. You're right there. He's only waking up an hour and a half earlier than you want him to. So I always suggest just going in 15-minute intervals. He's up and crying, but he's not hungry, just up for the day. He can wait for 7 till food. Okay, so I would just let him fuss for 15 minutes and just kind of set the precedent, like you're going to have to self-soothe in your crib until we're ready to start our day, like the family. So 15 minutes of letting him, like, as long, I know it's going to be hard if he's screaming his head off, but if he's whining and crying, he'll figure out a way to self-soothe, and then just get him at 5:45, and then just the next few days, then get him at 6, and just try to extend it there. Hey, Deirdre. Okay, I'm going to read your question, Deirdre. Right now we're figuring out the night feedings. So far the little one wakes up at 3 and 5:30. If we feed her at 7, should we assume that 5:30 is her second feeding? Sorry. Are we talking in the middle of the night? Deirdre? Sorry, Deirdre. I was actually answering Cindy's question. I don't know if I helped you too, though, but... Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So that 5:30 feeding, eventually, so your first step here, Deirdre, is to drop the 3 o'clock feeding. And I just answered it. Okay, and then same thing as Cindy. That's why you were thanking me, because I really did answer it. That 5:30, it's so close to 7 that's just going to be a slide. Hold on. Hopefully I'm back on. I just looked like I got disconnected. So that 5:30 is going to be a sliding time, and you're going to just slowly get it as close to 7 as you can. But your first step there is going to be to drop the 3 a.m. feeding. And then you might find, like, sorry, it's saying I have a poor connection. You might find that that 3 a.m. feeding drops, but then like maybe you're going to hear the baby wake up at 5. Like that 5:30, it's the trick at the end, and it kind of is like a sliding scale. Like that's where you just add those 15 minutes on until you get to the time that you want. So good. I see we have a bunch of other people on here. Does anybody have any questions? I hope I answered both of yours. One of the things I wanted to talk about is just the act of getting them on an eating schedule. It's almost like we created this like 3 a.m. feed, every 3-hour feed. We created this problem that we're now trying to solve, because I don't know if you remember, or if this happened to you, but when I first had my daughter, they gave her to me, and they like let me alone in the room with her, and I'm hanging out with my family was visiting, and my husband was there, and like I think she went like 5 hours without eating. And they were like, when was the last time you fed her? And I was nursing, so she was like only taking a little bit on each side, and I'm like, she's gone like a while. Like, I think I was just so impressed. And they were like, you have to feed her, like you have to teach her how to eat, and hunger is like a learned thing. Like they're hungry, but you have to still give them food every 3 hours, and you can't just in the beginning let them fend for themselves, because hours are going to go by and then they're going to be like losing their mind. So it kind of like follows us to adulthood. Like if you're every day you're eating lunch at noon, like no matter what you're doing, your stomach's going to start to rumble at noon, because that's the time you're used to eating. So even though your babies might be waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, but you think that they shouldn't be hungry because they kind of ate enough throughout the day, that 3 o'clock in the morning thing might just be they're used to eating at 3 o'clock in the morning. If you woke up every day as an adult and had a sandwich at 3 o'clock in the morning, you might wake up, you might like continue to do that and your stomach will rumble at that time, but your whole life you didn't eat at that time. It's just something you started during this coronavirus. So it's your bodies adapt and get hungry very quickly, and you create a habit very quickly. So don't be alarmed if they still continue to wake up, even if they're only waking up for a half ounce and you're like, they can't possibly be hungry. It's mainly because they're just used to eating at that time. Hey Miriam, okay, let me answer your question. Your baby's down to 1 feeding at an inconsistent time. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 5 hours. Down to an ounce and a half, and he seems very hungry and hard to put to sleep after and won't take more during the day. Any advice? Okay, well, are they taking like a reasonable amount during the day, like that 24 to 32 ounces? Is my first question. Like, it doesn't have to be exact, but you want to make sure they're definitely eating throughout the day. But if you're down to 1.5 ounces in the middle of the night, I think that the baby's probably fine during the day. My first thing is the inconsistent time thing. He had 26 ounces. Okay. So I think that the inconsistent time thing, track it. So tonight, if he wakes up at 3, the next night, don't feed him before 3, even if he wakes up. Just let him fuss, and he'll hopefully go back to bed. Like, so don't go backwards. If he can make it to 5 one day, that means he's okay to make it to 5. Like, he proved to you that he can do it. So try not to go backwards. You can give him that 5-minute, like you could do that back rubbing thing, cry it out, try to stretch it. 5 o'clock seems pretty close to morning time. But those are really inconsistent. So make sure, like, I know that it might be hard, like one night they can make it to 5, and then if they're fussing at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're going to be like, what the heck? But maybe try not running in there right away, giving it a little time. If you are going to go in there, maybe don't feed them, just rub their back, give it 5 minutes, leave, see if they go back to bed, because it might just be something woke them at that time and they're not really hungry. An ounce. And the other thing you can do is, if they wake up, if they start, sorry, I just saw I'm getting bad weather here right now, so I don't know if that's why I keep having to reconnect, but hopefully I'm not breaking up on you guys. So back to Miriam's. The other thing is, if they are consistently gonna wake up at 4 o'clock every day, around 4, then you could just slowly go down from that 1.5 ounce, and hopefully that whole feeding will get eliminated. Now, putting them back to bed after that, that's kind of like, I don't know what you're doing if you're trying to like rock them and actually put them to sleep, but just try to just put them back down and leave the room and see if they could settle themselves. So you're really, I'm curious, Miriam, how the baby is going to bed for you in the middle of the night. In the beginning of the night, are they putting themselves to bed? Are they self-soothing? If you know that they know how to self-soothe, then hopefully you can get that middle of the night more consistent and then eventually wean it off. I hope that made sense. Hey, Brianne. Oh, it says you helped us so much a couple weeks ago. Good, I'm so happy. We were dream feeding and putting our little one down too late, and you told us to drop the dream feed and put her to bed. She's sleeping through the night just fine, so thank you. Oh, good, I'm so happy. That's awesome. She's not connecting sleep cycles for naps. Any tips? So I don't know what you mean by that. Connecting sleep cycles for naps, like she's not napping long for you. Is that what it is? Like, just okay, Miriam. Yeah, definitely. You could keep up with that. It sounds like you're putting the baby to bed awake, so she sleeps for 30 to 32 minutes. That's not a long nap. Could you just leave her in there, Brianne? And does she, you could do the 5-minute thing. If she starts crying, you go in there 5 minutes. Basically, you're telling her nap's not over, and go back. My next question is she sleeping in the crib in her room the same way she sleeps at night? Because she's sleeping so good at night for you that she may associate like being in the bed. I know with my first, we had her napping in the swing, and it was just like the house was too loud. And it was once we put her in her room and turned the lights off and gave her a noise machine, it was okay. So we tried to keep it the exact same way at night, and like she kind of just, it clicked the nap thing for her. If she wakes up, I would let her cry for 5 minutes, time it, go in there, rub her back, and just basically tell her, mommy's not getting you right now. Like, it's nap time. Mommy needs this time. And you have to go back to bed. Yeah, so just go back to basics. Do the 5-minute thing. I mean, and it'll help her learn how to self-soothe and eventually go back to bed. It's hard to do it during the day, and you almost feel like weird doing it because the nighttime thing just makes more sense, but they'll figure it out. Amrita, my little one's 4 months old. It takes his every 3 hours. How can I increase the time? So the first step for increasing the time for every 3 hour, eating every 3 hours, you just stretch it out by 15 minutes. Okay, so if the baby wants to eat every 3 hours and is ravenous every 3 hours, just go into your toolkit. The book talks about the toolkit, so grab the pacifier, grab the bouncy seat, walk with the baby, try to stretch it out for 3 hours and 15 minutes, and then they'll hopefully take a little bit more at that next feeding because they're hungry, they're ravenous, and then keep stretching it. A few days later, add another 15 minutes and do it until you get to the 4 hours. One of my daughters like never made it to 4 hours. She was always 3.5 hours, but we still were able to get her to sleep for the 12 hours a night. So that doesn't mean that you can't try to start sleep training at night, but every 3 hours is tough. You're gonna at least want to get it to every 3.5. Elizabeth said, hey Karen, we're dealing with early morning wakes and I feel like she has the best schedule. Please help, she's 8 months. I don't know, definitely Elizabeth. Okay, so watch the beginning of this if you weren't logged on, but I talked a lot about that. Just, she's in the crib and you leave her in there until the desired schedule. That sounds great. What's she doing in the crib? I mean, is she losing her mind? How much earlier is she up? I want to add that 12 hours is not necessarily, and she says this in the book, the author, it's not necessarily sleeping 12 hours. It's just happy-ish in the crib for 12 hours. So I hear my son sometimes like an hour before I'm ready to get him, and he's just singing and chatting, and I have like 1 or 2 very safe toys for him in there. I mean, he's 18 months now, so it's different. But he's just rolling around and standing up and singing and talking to himself and babbling. So he's fine. And then I know that when he starts to whine, he's like ready to get out. And sometimes it's an hour. Sometimes he goes back to bed. So if they're not like losing their mind where you're like, oh my God, I like that motherly instinct, like I have to go in there, then just leave her in there. If she's losing her mind and she like wants to get out, it's saying you're leaving her in there, so she must be okay, Elizabeth, but like she's not screaming her head off. But if she is, just kind of keep stretching it the 15 minutes and until you want to get her. But if you're leaving her in there until the desired time, but she's just not sleeping, but she's happy, I think you're doing a great job. I think that that's exactly what that's all you could really ask for. Danielle wants help with naps. He will stay in the crib awake but quiet. He then misses his windows and wake times are all messed up. What do I do? So 7 to 9:30 awake, 9:30 sleep. Okay, so Elizabeth, 9:30 to 11:30 sleep. So you're saying from 9:30 to 11 he's awake but not sleeping. Like, is he sleeping at different times? Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm reading Danielle's. Elizabeth. Yeah, Danielle, I think you're good. That's a good schedule. I'm sorry, Elizabeth, your schedule sounds good. So Danielle, I would, it depends on what's going on. Like, so if he's not sleeping, is he tired and he needs to be sleeping at a different time? You might need to put him in a little earlier. Like sometimes they get overtired so they don't fall asleep. If he's awake but quiet and then he's happy after that and it doesn't seem like he needs a nap at that time, then maybe he'll take a longer nap throughout later in the day. I need a little more info, like how old he is, Danielle. He's 14 weeks and wakes up 1:30 early and whining, kicking, sleeping next to you. Okay, he's not in the bed though next to you, is he? Make sure he's in like a bassinet or something. 8:15 is in bed, awake but quiet, and then not happy after. Okay, so yeah, I mean, what time does he wake up? Like, and he's 14 weeks. So when my daughter and son would wake up at 7, they go back to bed by like 9, sometimes 8:30. Like, so 2 hours later. So what time are they waking up in the morning? Like if he's, Danielle, if he's waking up at 7, make sure, like, I would try to start getting him back in for a nap around 8:30 or 9. So he might be overtired. But if he's in there and he's happy, just leave him in there until he falls asleep again. But I know you want your wake times so he sleeps through the night, so that's kind of difficult. Yeah. Emily said, my little one's 9 months and still wakes up twice a night to eat. I feel like he's actually hungry because he is sucking it down, but fights going back in the crib, so I put him in my bed. Please help. Yeah, no beds. We don't want them in the beds like at all. It's not safe, and it's like terrible for our marriages. So yeah, 9 months old. He's probably eating solids. He does not need that bottle. So what I would do is measure it, wean it down. Like, so if it's 3 ounces, a few days later it's 2.5, and then just put him back in the crib. Especially, Emily, if he's going to bed okay for you at night, like at your 7 o'clock bedtime, and he's waking up twice, so it might be a soothing, just like a normal soothing thing for him. Like, he's used to it by now. I would just try to drop them, or even, how much is he taking, Emily, at night? He refuses bottles during the day. So are you nursing? And are you nursing in the middle of the night? Only drinks 4 ounces at a time. Is he eating solids? 9 months? I'm trying to think. And then what times is he waking up and what times is he going to bed? Because twice at 9 months is tough. It's like a lot at night. Yeah, 4 ounces at a time. I mean, I don't know what his schedule is during the day, but if that might not be that, like, if he's eating solids, 4 ounces, formula during the night, I pump during the day, he'll only drink 4 ounces of formula. He takes great naps. Okay, and then what time is he waking up in the middle of the night? And he's eating solids too, right? Yeah, I would try to just wean those middle of the night feedings until he doesn't even want to wake up for him. But you, midnight and 3, yeah, some solids. Okay, so yeah, midnight and 3, it sounds like you have a newborn. So that is rough. But I would just drop the midnight one. Like, he definitely doesn't need that. He's basically just, and he's up by 6. Yeah, he's like basically just doing the that newborn schedule for you, which is rough. At 9 months, you need sleep. Everyone needs sleep, and I know that, like, that desperation where you're just like, everybody needs to sleep, so you just put the baby in the bed with you. But the best thing to do is keep them in their crib, keep the routine. It takes 3 days to make a habit and 7 days to break it. So just take a week, come up with a schedule, and break the habit. He does not need those middle of the night feedings at 9 months. You might not want to drop both of them because he might be a monster, but I would just let him cry it out. Not for an hour, it's not going to take that long, but hey mama. It's stuck? Okay, come here. My little one's got something stuck in her hair. I would just maybe walk in and rub his back at the midnight one. Let him cry it out every 5 minutes, He'll go back to bed, and then he might still wake up at that 3 o'clock one, and maybe that's the one you want to wean off. Okay. You got a bubble thing stuck in your hair. You want to say hi? Hi. This is Claire. She's my almost 4-year-old. Okay. Danielle, separate issue. We've been trying to ST my 14-month-old since he sleep trained my 14-month-old since he was 9 weeks in bed by 6 hours. He ideally wakes up around then in the morning. He eats. Be careful with that. Don't get up stuck. What time is the second? Okay, well, he's 14 months, so he eats his first feeding around 2 or 3, and the second one 2 hours later, and gets angry if we don't feed him. So, Danielle, Daisy, are those feeds in the middle of the night, 2 or 3, and then 2 hours later? Yeah. Oh, he's 14 weeks. Okay. So, you scared me. Okay, so his first feeding's around 2 or 3 in the morning, and the second is 2 hours later. Okay, well, that second feed is 2 hours later. That's 5 a.m. That second feed is his wake-up time. Okay, so what you want to do with that second one is push it to his wake-up time. So you're going to add 15 minutes. I know what you mean about him not really going back to bed. Like, he probably is just whining and fussing and singing. At that I had a kid that did that. Just work on dropping. My 7-year-old has a loose tooth. She lost one, and now another one's coming out. So work on dropping that 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning feeding, and then 2 hours later, that 5 a.m. feeding is going to have to get pushed to the 6:45. He's been doing this since we started sleeping. He really can't do the crying 3 to 5 minute thing as he sleeps next to us in our room and the toddler down the hall. So the thing with not letting him cry is with having him sleep right next to you. He's 14 weeks. Does he have his own room? Like, are you eventually ready to get him in his own room? Now might be the time to do that. But at 14 weeks, he doesn't really see you if he's still in the bassinet next to you. I'd say try to get him in his own space. Don't worry about the toddler down the hall until it becomes an issue. So I deal with a lot of moms that are like afraid to let their kids cry it out because they're afraid to wake the other one. But hopefully the other one is sleep trained and like can sleep through anything. There's a really good noise machine that I have that just kind of stays on all night, and it's white noise. All my kids have one, so it kind of blocks out all the sound. But it's not an issue until it's an issue. So try it. Try to let them cry it out, because you'd be surprised at how well your toddler down the hall can sleep. His room isn't ready. Yeah, I would start eliminating that 2 a.m. feed, but there might be some tears involved. So I know he sleeps right next to you, but just, as long as he doesn't see you, he'll be fine. And also, like, just, yeah, I mean, you could even just push the bassinet to like a different corner. So it's not like at 14 weeks old, they're going to be sitting up and like asking for mommy. That's where it gets a little difficult when they're like 9 months old and they have object permanence where they know that you're leaving the room and that you've left them. So definitely eliminate the 2 a.m. feeding, and then hopefully that 5 a.m. one could get pushed to a normal wake time, because 5 a.m. is too early, I know. Lisa has a nap question. My 9-month-old naps from 9 to 10 and 1 to 3. He recently has been taking 20 to 30 minutes to fall asleep independently. He will babble, throw passwords out of the crib. Well, do I still wake up at 10? Lisa, what time is he waking up in the morning for you? You might be missing sometimes you're missing a window to put him down, and they're like too wired. So if he's waking up at 7, say, I mean, not 2 hours later would be 9, but like say he's waking up at 6:30, maybe try to put him down at 8:30. Or even if he's waking up at 7, maybe try to put him down at 8:30 and see if he's waking up at 6. Okay, I would try putting him down at 8, and I bet you he'll sleep till 10. He plays in the crib till 7. Okay, so, but he's up at 6. So this is the thing. Don't do that. I would try leaving him until 7 if that's what works for your family, but then try putting him down for a nap somewhere between 8 and 8:30, or 8:30 and 9. Like, try putting him down for a nap a little earlier, and I bet he falls asleep quicker. And like, is he cranky at all before that 9 a.m. nap time? Because I think that he might be missing a sleeping window and then they get overstimulated. They have a hard time falling asleep. If he doesn't fall asleep until 9:30, I probably wouldn't wake him at 10 unless he's waking up on his own at 10. Yeah, if he's cranky, he's kind of telling you that he wants to go to bed a little earlier. I bet if you put him in at 8 or 8:30, he still sleeps until 10. And your schedule will, like, you're going to find that you have 4 or 5 hours of naps throughout the day. So give that a try. And then, yeah, they can nap again at 1 if that works for your family. Definitely 1 to 3. That's what my kids did. They did 9 to 11, and then like 1 or 2 to 3:30. So yeah, and if he's cranky, I think he's telling you something. I think sometimes you miss a window, and then it's like the more they sleep, the more they sleep. So if you're pushing it back, yeah, you're gonna get it, Lisa. Try it tomorrow and then reach it back out to me. I think that's exactly what's happening. And I have an 18-month-old, and so Claire, who is the little one that just popped in, she still naps, and she's going to be 4 next month, and she still gives me like 2-hour naps. Some days we skip it, but she just walks right up and she's in a bed, and I'm just like, it's nap time. And my little guy, Trevor, is almost 18 months, and he still naps for 4 hours. And sometimes the 2 of them nap at the same time, and it's just like, ah! And my older one's my helper, so yes, you are. So yes, good luck. Try that tomorrow and let me know. Just as a rule of thumb, I put them to bed 2 hours after they wake up, but it's important that even if they're in their crib happy and playing, that's fine. Leave them in their crib, but they really were up at 6. So he or she, I forgot what we said, is really ready to go back he's really ready to go back to bed at 8. But you're like, he just woke up at 7. You're trying to do breakfast and do things. So maybe 8:30, or maybe get him a little earlier out of the crib at 6:30, and then you won't feel so bad putting him back to bed at 8:30. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions? It's my grandpa's 89th birthday, so we're doing a big family Zoom call coming up soon. So I'm gonna hop off this and hop onto that. I'm gonna post something about this later, but I've been doing sleep consulting with people over the phone, and I started doing it on a donation basis because I wanted everybody who needed to sleep train, who wanted access to sleep training help to be able to afford it and just kind of donate whatever they can. I've had donations of $5 and $50, and it doesn't make it's just whatever you want and can afford. Um, the sleep training, um, I was doing something where I was charging, and I just felt like it didn't seem right for the people that couldn't afford it, and I couldn't even come up with a price because there's no price, there's no value. The value, it's invaluable. Is that the right word? Having your kids be able to sleep through the night and getting your life on a schedule. So I want to be able to help everybody I can. If it's something you're interested in and you want to set up a phone conversation, just DM me. And I'm going to post something about it too on the Facebook group. So, all right, I hope I helped you guys, and that's it. I'm going to sign off and get my little ones, my perfect sleepers, to bed, and I hope everybody has a good night. Bye.